Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I am your host, John Espinosa. I am your host, John Espinosa, to the Leading Leaders podcast. Jeremy, thoughts?
Yeah, just to echo some of those comments, you don't necessarily have to be in a leadership role to be a leader. Like Mark said, just jump in and participate, because by you jumping in, contributing, being there, participating, you are contributing to the organizational goals and achievements. And eventually that will kind of propel you into some type of position, because people will want you to have take on more responsibility and so forth. So I think that's important. And I think Mark and Michael also said this, is don't just run for a particular position or office because it sounds cool or it's going to be easy to obtain. Find something that you are passionate about. And that's going to be the driving force. And it's also going to be a very self-fulfilling prophecy. One of the most favorite things that are within our context of a fraternity is be true to Sigma Alpha Epsilon, and in turn, Sigma Alpha Epsilon will be true to you. It's something that I hold on to very dear. And I think that if you just, you have to be a part of a fraternity to understand what that means. But if you are true to that organization that you're a part of, in turn will multiply and do dividends for you. But also, I think, by being in a leadership mentor role, you can learn a lot from other people versus, and Michael was talking about as far as also with leadership involving other people and so forth. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Being able to delegate maybe one of the toughest things for leaders to kind of let go of, because it's really doesn't mean that you have less power. I mean, you're really, like Michael said, learning how to work smarter, not harder. And by being able to look at the people that surround you and those strengths and weaknesses and delegate to those that you can count on and get the job done, you're going to be more effective as a leader to meet those organizational goals and objectives.
Well, 100%, right? I saw everybody's head shaking when the word delegate. And I think that's the hardest transition that I see when we transition from that individual contributor that I know all the answers, everybody comes to me, I'm the expert in whatever field that I'm in right now, and we're transitioning into that leadership role now in order to create that capacity, right? Not just within ourselves, but also within our teams. It's that delegation piece, and people struggle.
It's the trust.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Brayden, talk about that, right? How does that trust, how do you overcome that piece so that way you can delegate, right? That trust piece.
I think a lot of it stems from people who may not even realize it, but do the leadership roles, do what you would do, but they don't have the fancy title. They don't have the role. They don't get the pay, but they still do those. So they don't see themselves as a leader within their group or their team or their organization. And the biggest issue that I see that stems from that is they don't trust themselves, and they don't trust the others around them. So they think they have to load their plate and do everything their way, because this is how they were taught it. This is how the book says to do it. This is what you need to do. That's the biggest thing I had to learn, was to delegate away from me. And they may not get it done as fast. They may not get it done as well, or they may not get it done the same way, but it gets done. It's a learning opportunity to let them lead and let them grow as an individual, but also let yourself grow, because you're giving that trust away and letting them handle. Because at the end of the day, in a company, you can't run absolutely everything, and you have to delegate. You have to trust others to do the work proficiently and not be worried about it 24/7.
Go ahead, Michael.
So that idea, what Brayden was just talking about, and you said it too, John, with the transitions and the way that you work with those people, the way you share that responsibility with leadership. I have to admit, one of the biggest compliments I think that I can get as a leader or as an educator, the leader of my building, is when, and they're always so sheepish when they come in and do it, someone will come in and hand me their resignation paper because they're terrified to do it, because they don't want to leave, they don't want to transition, they don't want to change. And I don't know how many times I've had to explain to people when they come into me, if this is a big move, if this is a better move, if this is a step up, that's exactly what I want for them. I wouldn't give them responsibility. I wouldn't train them. I wouldn't coach them. I wouldn't mentor them if I didn't think they couldn't handle it. And quite honestly, if you're in my organization, if you're in my school, you're only going to be there if you're quality. You're not going to last long if you're not a quality individual willing to be part of that process. So when they do come to me and say, and I had a teacher just this last spring, she came to me and very sheepishly laid her letter on my desk, and she said, I need to resign. And I said, what for? And she said, I got a job as an assistant principal, which is something she'd been working for about 3 years between education. She took on responsibility within my building. She took over some different things that the school was doing, and she became the lead on those to get some experience within her job. And that idea of growing your own to the point to where you can say, now go do something better somewhere else. That's like the epitome of a compliment that I think that a leader should take is, I've helped you become something bigger than what you thought you could be, or go to the next level. What a compliment to any leader that people want to eventually leave for the right reasons.
It speaks to authenticity, right? Yeah. Like if you in your world are about developing others, I operate, and I jokingly use this term, hopefully it never happens to me, because the people that work, that I oversee or supervise, I always operate by the hit by the bus rule. If I'm hit by a bus on the way to work tomorrow and nobody can get my jobs over the finish line and those clients are now not being served, I've not done my job. And they all know like the hit by bus rule, right? Like, and I always say like, hey, if you got hit by a bus, who's going to do this? How inauthentic would you be if all you were developing people for, like in my world, running projects, installing, Tesla superchargers all over the country or whatever we're doing, if I was developing you as a person just to make my jobs more profitable, just to get more revenue from my client, just to make my bonus bigger. Do I like all those things? Sure. Right? But the better I do, the better you do. And if you get a job, if you work for me and you're a coordinator, and maybe in our structure, there's just not a managerial position available, and you go get it, and you're getting more money, and you can work from home a couple of days. I'm giving you a hug, and I'm patting you on the back, and I'm saying, good luck, great. And the hit by bus rule also is no company crumbles when one person walks out the door, right? Certainly some are more difficult to replace than others. And I tell people that. I'm like, look, good luck, great. But like, that's where you have to connect your leadership, I would say your human mentality of, do I really want to help people, or do I want to make my day at work better, right? And I think if you do the first one, your day at work, your day at home with your wife and kids, your day in whatever clubs you're in is going to be better because you want people to do better. And if they come give you a resignation, and it's also, you have to be humble enough to know if it's maybe self-reflective, maybe the company or me, maybe I'm not doing something to serve their needs, and maybe they're leaving for a horizontal move. And then that's time to look in the mirror and say, I own it. I have it. It stinks you're leaving, but you have to take ownership. But I think in leadership, John, I watched a bunch of your videos just to kind of get to virtually before this call. I listen to the podcasts. I read the books. I do all the stuff. We're running educational events for hundreds of undergraduates a couple times a year. So I'm deeply involved in this stuff, but it's not for the numbers, right? And it's not preachy, but it's like, I want people to do better. I want Brayden to have a great life. I want to stay friends with him as long as I know him, not because we're in the fraternity, but because we were in a fraternity together and are for the rest of our lives, right? So I've heard it at different jobs in my life where it's like someone quits and then it's like they start dirtbagging them and, oh, well, they didn't do this. And I'm like, oh my God, it just disgusts me because and again, this is what I said in my introduction, probably why I don't come across like a typical engineer type guy, which is much more, if you've ever done a DISC assessment in an engineering firm, everybody's like C, D, and S. And then there's like two of us in the other corner of the room that are I's out of the whole firm, right? It's always me alone with the people that have a heart. But it's just, I want to be authentic. I want people to understand that what I'm doing isn't because I need your chapter to do better. I need Oklahoma State to do better. So we need Brayden to really manage his chapter well. Sure, functionally we need all that, but I want him to use this experience as I learned so much. I'm way ahead of other guys that graduate with my degree because I chose to participate and I had difficult things I did in life. And, unfortunately in the world, you say fraternity and there's stigmas out there, right? But I see it. I'll ask maybe it's because I'm deeply involved. I'll ask two questions to an interviewee that was in a fraternity and I'll know, okay, this girl, this guy, they're awesome because they've had to deal with this stuff way before any of the other people that might have the same academic credentials and whatnot. But that just speaks to authenticity. Like, I want to be authentic. If you're leaving for the right reasons, maybe I'll be bummed because I'm like, man, I got to fill a hole on the team, but I'm not going to be ever not happy for that person. But that's just a component of who you are. And I think the more you do that, currently it's hard sometimes in the world. If you watch too much news or all the politics in the country, it can be a grind out there. But if you continue to share that authentic love for people and really want people to do better, it will spread, and it might be a slow fire, but it's like you said, John, do you want to go fast or do you want to go long, right? And if you have that authentic connection to, I want you to do better and I want you to help me, because while I'm the president of the organization, I'm not the best SAE there's ever been, and I'm not the most knowledgeable, and there's people that know history better than me, and Jeremy definitely knows our ritual probably better than I do. Right. But I'm okay with that. Right. I got elected to do my job by these guys, undergraduates and alumni. And you just have to have that authentic connection in life. Otherwise, again, what are you doing with your time? People always ask me, well, when you're off the board, because I'll cycle off in the near future off our board of directors, they're like, oh, is it going to be great to be done with SAE? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'll go down the road and help a chapter, or I'll be in the mentor program. I'll always do it. Right. It's taken too many soccer games and scout events away from me and my kids for me not to be devoted for my whole life to it. Right. But yeah,
You're too deep to crawl out now.
It's way too deep. Yeah, I can't get away.
Yeah, I got your number and they know where you live.
So they sure do.
John, I gotta give you a real quick funny. So when I left, I got my first principal job. I was a principal at a very small kindergarten through 8th grade building. It was not the good setting for me, but it was very educational. I learned a ton. I was only there for 3 years, but I learned a ton. And when my wife and I decided that I was going to take a new job closer to home, closer to where my family is, we got the U-Haul pulled up at our house, right? And so it's my wife, my little children, and my mother-in-law are the ones at the house, and we're going to load this whole house, right? And pretty soon start pulling the cars, and the high school principal gets out. There were 2 high school principals, 4 elementary principals in our district, and both high school principals show up and all the other elementary principals show up, and my counselor shows up, and the school nurse shows up, and 2 or 3 of the teachers show up, and we empty the house and load the truck. It takes like an hour and we're ready to roll. And my mother-in-law goes up to my superintendent and she said, I have to ask. And he's like, what's that? And she said, do you really like Michael and you want to help him, or do you really want him to leave that bad? And my superintendent, God love him, he said, it's kind of a mixture of both. But that idea that I didn't even have to ask, I told them when we were moving, and I think we had 20 people show up to help us load the house without it being solicited. Because like Mark said, it was the authenticity of the environment that I was in. They knew the next step for me was not to stay long-term there, but the next step was for me to move somewhere else and be able to continue in that journey. And what a great expression of love and support for them to be able to give me in literally just carrying my boxes of crap onto a truck. Yeah. And it really meant the world to me and my family.
Well, and I'll tell you, that speaks a lot to your character, Michael, for them to show up without asking. And I think that's one thing as leaders, we lead for not the notoriety, right? I mean, Mark just mentioned the games that you missed and the scout events, the family time that we miss because we're dedicating ourselves to a greater cause, to a mission and a vision and an organization that we strongly believe in. And that is one thing I think that intimidates people. And Brayden, I'll ask you this. I know we're running out of time here. Listening to your senior leaders talk about that, you're just not another number to them. I think we mentioned there's 12,000 current, right, or 12,000 in school, and you guys have over 120-ish, I think, current members, right? That alumni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 120, 125, and for me, it kind of just lights a fire underneath me. I want to do the same for the kids below me and the kids coming in the future. I still, even though I don't hold any more positions in the house, chapter level wise, I don't hold any more positions. I still assist on our PR committee. I still help make merch. I still help with the homecoming directing team because homecoming is absolutely massive for us. I still help out with recruitment over the summer. Even if it's not in a recruiting capacity and texting potential new members and everything, I'm still going to events. I'm showing up. I'm letting these kids know that when they come to these events and they're meeting all the recruitment chairmen and the sophomores and the freshmen that just rushed and the juniors, there's seniors still here. Everyone is bought in. Everyone still wants to see the house succeed. Everyone is still around. It's not, oh, okay, I'm in my senior year. I'm going to go live in my house off campus. I'm just going to go to the bars on the weekends, do my class and get out of here. No, I'm still staying involved. I'm still buying and I still show up to everything that is not even really mandated for me, but I'm still showing up because I want to. And these guys, and not even just them, a bunch of other alumni and people that I've spoken with, just light a fire kind of underneath you and want to make sure that you do the right thing so that people under you have that good foundation to build off of. And it's not them trying to figure out everything on the fly, because that just doesn't that doesn't benefit them personally or organization wise. Doesn't benefit them at all.
Yeah, well, you gave me goosebumps, and it means a lot. I'm super proud of you. It speaks to your character that these gentlemen joined us today. I mean, how many, times can you pick up the phone and get senior leaders of your organization on a call within a week, right? I think we planned in a week. So as we come to the end of our time together, I could talk to you all day long about leadership, but one of the just parting words, what would you give our listeners, just maybe one thing as we close today that you would encourage somebody who doesn't necessarily see themselves as a leader? What advice would you give them maybe to either step into a leadership role? I think we talked about participating. We talked about the collaboration, right? And how important it is just to jump in. But what would be one piece of advice that you would give that individual who is on the fence or maybe be looking in the mirror and they're doing all the right things? They're out there participating. They're out there, putting themselves out there, but they're still not seeing themselves as leaders. What would you say to them?
If I could jump in on this, I think you said it very well earlier, John, and that is become comfortable with the uncomfortableness of the situation. Because if you haven't done it, it's going to be very foreign and, quite frankly, uncomfortable for you to jump into that type of role. I would just echo those thoughts.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Michael?
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay. I'm not much of a rule follower, so I kind of have two things that I want to say. And again, those that know me, they're not shocked. The advice that I think most young leaders, especially starting out, taking on for their first kind of roles where they really have to guide a process or lead a team, or even like my first year teachers. One of the things I'm constantly reminding them is that the struggle is real. The idea that if you came into this thinking this was going to be easy, you were misguided. You hold a fallacy. Whatever leadership position you take, if you truly want to be in charge, you truly want to help others, you need to understand that struggle is going to be there and it's going to be constant, because as leaders, we constantly have people not necessarily working against us, but working in the opposite direction for sure. I don't like to say that people work against me in the job that I do, but guaranteed they're going the other direction. I'm trying to constantly turn them back to go with me versus fighting against me. And so that constant struggle is something that leaders have to learn how to navigate, and they have to learn how to utilize the skills they have to work within that struggle, because it will never go away. Once your job is easy, that means you're not doing enough. You need to take on something else. You need to go to the next level. Once you are so comfortable that your job is easy, it's time to take on something else. The other one that I think is a big one is, when it comes down to being a leader, you personally have to remember that it is okay to be tough. It is okay to be strong, but it is also super important to be forgiving and giving. When I work with college kids, when I work with fraternity brothers that are in my chapters, some of which have really given me struggle over the last 6 years, I have to remember that I can be strong. I can be the guy that comes in and holds a membership review, and we go through and we determine you stay or you go. And I have these kids that I know them personally. I know their parents, and I'm still telling them they'd have to step away from the fraternity. They're no longer going to be members. I have to be tough. I have to be strong in my convictions. But at the same time, I have to be giving and forgiving in how I do that, because I have to lead everybody, not just the select ones that I want to. So those guys that are leaving the house, they're still learning from me, whether they want to be under me as mentees or be coached, they're still learning from my actions. And so being strong, but having that forgiving heart and having that nurturing heart, and that probably comes from me as an educator in general, that idea of I want to help, I want to show, and I want to do it in a way that's good for you. I think that's so important, because so many leaders think they're doing the right things by being tough and gruff and unapproachable and, aloof. And it really doesn't do what they think it does. That forgiving and giving heart is so crucial.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
I wear my heart on my sleeve. So, Michael, you got me a little choked up because
John, we cry a lot in the fraternity. Mark and I are known to sit around and reminisce, and we'll probably both be in tears by the end of the night. So this is not.
But I think if we've said a lot of things that throughout this podcast that I won't reiterate. If I'm saying one thing, I'll look inward. And it's a mantra I've had since I was young. And I think I adopted it when I was the president of my chapter, 25 guys in Youngstown at a small state school that nobody knew of. And I used to say it to myself, and I believe in saying it to yourself out loud too, is don't sell yourself short. And when Michael said forgiving, I got a little, verklempt, because I think that's a big component of not selling yourself short is being forgiving of yourself. There's nobody more challenging in the world than that guy or girl that's looking back in the mirror at you and upset. And, I failed. I kicked myself. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel lost. I'm alone. And that just ties into that mantra of don't sell yourself short. And that can be in challenging times in your life. That is really hard to forgive yourself and not sell yourself short and be able to see through that cloud, have the sun peek through the cloud, over the top of the cloud there. And that moment of there is a little bit of light there, and the light's me, and I'm staring me in the mirror. I'm in my bathroom looking at my mirror saying, I messed up yesterday, bad day. Today's another day. The sun came over the cloud. I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I'll take ownership. But just those 4 words, don't sell yourself short. I think on any journey you're on, fitness, faith, leadership, whatever, I think that's a mantra that can really stick. And it's a simple phrase, and it's in the back of people's minds of just don't sell yourself short. You're not going to believe in yourself every day of your life. You're going to fail. You're going to fail bigly. You're going to fail large failures in your life. You're going to have the most impactful moment of my young time in the fraternity. We had a history of winning fraternity of the year on our campus, and we lost it the year I was president. And it was heartbreaking to me as like a 20-year-old guy that I was the failure. I was the guy that broke the chain of years and years and years of success. And I'll never forget having a meeting after that event in the basement with my guys and apologizing, taking ownership, and saying, we're never letting this happen again. But that was crushing to me as a young guy. And that was probably one of those moments where I let that fear overtake me and the failure overtake me. And I probably sold myself short and blamed myself too much. But you have to know there's fear, there's failure, there's societal pressures. There's a lot of things in life that are going to be bad. Always believe in yourself, even after a bad day. Give yourself a day or two to wallow if you need it, but don't sell yourself short, and surround yourself with people that believe in that same mentality.
Well said. I have learned more from my failures than I ever had my success.
Right.
Brayden, listening today to these leaders, what's one takeaway that you can go and spread to your fellow brothers? And for you, we've had conversations, right, around your leadership philosophy. How can you bring others into that philosophy and pass that down?
I think Mark kind of nipped on it, and when he was talking about approachable. One of my big philosophies is that just because you have a title doesn't mean you're a leader. A leader doesn't care about a title. A leader will take time to grow those underneath him. And that's one of the biggest things that I have met from everyone and anyone that has a position in our organization is they're approachable. They want you to go to them. So I think a big thing to look at is just because someone in your organization has that title, look at how they act, look at what they do, look at if they make themselves available. If they try to make themselves available as much as they can, that means they're trying. They want to mentor, they want to lead, and they want to have that time to develop people underneath them. If they're not making that effort and making that time, you shouldn't be wasting your time on that. And that's where I come into my next one. We talked about putting your own mask on first, that you need to put your own mask on first. Don't take that job just because you want to impress your family. Don't go to a certain school or buy something just to impress friends. You need to put your own mask on first to be able to be there and have that initial place of solidarity and happiness to be able to spread it to others. You have to have that initially within yourself. And so you need to put your mask on first and look at things from an inside and an outside perspective before you really just say, oh, he has a title. He's, CEO. I'm going to go talk to him. He might be CEO. He might have got there, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has the aspirations to or knows how to lead or mentor, because someone may not have done it from him.
Well said. And, one of the missions of really my podcast is creating the best versions of yourselves. So that way you can go pour into others, right? Mm-hmm. Goes back to that putting the oxygen mask on yourself first. So I can't tell you what a great conversation this has been. And I know our listeners are, busy taking notes. I know they're going to come away with a lot of information around leadership. And our discussion today, really, I can't thank you all enough for your time. Time is our most valuable resource. So thank you. I know you all are very busy, but I appreciate the time that you have spent with me and spent with the listeners today. Brayden, again, thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah.
putting this group together, because again, it speaks to the unity and the culture that you all have created, and the leaders before you have created and will continue to create, right? In every successful organization, it starts with that culture and the values. And it is evident through our conversation today that you all have established that and are living it as leaders.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thank you all. And everybody, if you like what you hear, give us a thumbs up, put a comment down, ask questions. I can distribute questions or I can ask questions, and we'll make sure that those get answered. So thanks everyone today. And again, we believe in you. I believe in you. Go be great. We'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.